Hello and welcome back to another edition of Viper Bites presented by the Fantasy Points Media Group. As we continue our little series here talking about the top 5 assets for all 32 franchises. This time we're going to focus on the Las Vegas Raiders. But before we do, let's focus on making you a better fantasy football player. And that is simply by going to fantasypoints.com and getting that subscription today. A one-stop shop for all your fantasy football needs. You want more reason to do it? Sign up today, use promo code VIPERS22 and get 10% off that subscription. Now, let's get right into this because we got a lot to cover in a very short period of time to do so. Things have changed in Vegas. If you're going to Vegas, you're betting it all on black so far this year. I mean, the AFC West has become the wild, wild West. Watching the battle for arms heat up all offseason between the Chargers, the Broncos, the Raiders. Not so much the Chiefs, but hey, they had plenty of firepower to begin with. So the Raiders, what did they go off and do? They got themselves one Davante Adams. Currently, if you're looking at the expert consensus rankings here right now, he is going off the board as the Dynasty wide receiver 6. And after 8 seasons, 73 touchdowns, nearly 700 receptions, nearly 8,120 yards there receiving, Davante Adams' time in Green Bay has come to a conclusion, and he'll be once again reunited with his old college dorm buddy, his old college teammate there in Derek Carr. Now, Derek Carr, adjust your rankings because we'll talk about him in just a second here, but Adams' rankings at the wide receiver position last season are as follows. He was second in fantasy points with 332.8, second in receptions with 123, third in yards with 1,553, and in touchdowns with 11. He came in 5th overall. Now, say Adams sees even a 15% dip in production with added competition for the targets. I mean, we compare the guys here in Vegas, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow, compared to Alan Lazard, Marquez Valdez-Scantling last season. We know there's more competition for targets in Vegas so far. We also can say what we want about Derek Carr. Again, we'll come back to that here in just a second. So even with that 15% dip, that would equate to roughly 283 fantasy points, and that would still be the 7th most of any receiver per last season's numbers. Davante Adams is the only receiver to post back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons. That's 1,374 and 1,553, and 10-plus touchdowns, 18 and 11, in each of the last 2 seasons. But then again, that was with Aaron Rodgers. Don't be surprised if you see Waller line up out wide more often in this McDaniels offense. We see what McDaniels likes to do with the tight ends. He likes to run them down the seams. He likes to stretch the seams with them so much. And when you see what Waller does, especially down in the red zone there, he was getting 6.8 routes per run per game last season when he was healthy. And that's, again, key to him being healthy in this whole thing. If McDaniels continues to ask Waller to work down in the red zone there, and if Renfrow and Adams continue to draw coverage, that means more one-on-one looks for Waller, which is an absolute fantasy manager's delight. This is an advantage in which even Derek Carr, he can exploit here. Darren Waller on a linebacker in the red zone? Yeah, yes, please. Now, speaking of Hunter Renfrow, we talked about these other pass catchers already. Darren Waller, we talked about Davante Adams. Renfrow is kind of being overlooked right now. He's currently going off the board as a dynasty wide receiver 39 as per those expert rankings. Renfrow is one of the more cerebral route runners and pass catchers in today's game. When Carr makes and adjusts calls at the line of scrimmage, often Renfrow is given a couple different route options in which he sets up. When McDaniels had his best offenses in New England, he had an accurate quarterback, a slot receiver that was a target hog, a tight end that was undefendable, and a perimeter receiver that was known to be one of the best in the game. How the targets are divided up is anybody's guess right now. We know Adams, he's going to get his. But after that, who knows? Who's going to be that second option? In PPR leagues, my guess would be Hunter Renfrow filling that Julian Edelman, Wes Welker type role in this offense. While in standard leagues, Darren Waller will likely be the man getting that ball down in the red zone, much like a younger, healthier Rob Gronkowski. Now let's focus about the guy delivering the goods, and that is Derek Carr. Say what you will about him. He gets a bad rap by a lot of people there, especially in the fantasy community. But Carr, he was a good quarterback last year. He was 5th in passing yards with 4,804, 5th in completion percentage at 68.4%, 2nd in passes greater than 20-plus yards down the field, and 5th in passes 40 or more yards down the field. However, getting the ball in the end zone, that happened to be his downfall. Enter Davante Adams and those 73 career touchdowns. That certainly will help improve upon his 23 touchdown passes from a season ago. Remember when Carr had Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper? Remember that? Oh, I do. Both receivers would go on to produce 1,000-yard seasons, and Carr, he would end up getting a few MVP votes along the way. With Adams, Waller, and Renfroe on the field, Carr could potentially return to that MVP conversation. With all these weapons and with Adams and Renfroe locked in for a few more seasons, Carr is in a position to be a top 5 fantasy quarterback, not only for this year, but for the next 2 to 3 years as well. So let's talk about the running back position here now. Zamir White, RB 56 as far as Dynasty is concerned right now. And before everyone starts coming at me for the exclusion of Josh Jacobs, ask yourselves, why did the Raiders decline Jacobs' fifth-year option and draft a running back in the 3rd round in this past April? Josh McDaniels is coming over from New England, in which the Patriot way has always been a running back by committee approach. More specifically, backs in New England have always had very defined roles within this offense. White loves contact, maybe too much contact. If he wants to extend his career, he will need to know when to hold him, when to fold him when it comes to taking unnecessary contact. Now let's take a look here. We know Jacobs, he can fill that Damian Harris role here in 2022. Zamir White, maybe that Ramondre Stevenson type role. And then, of course, you got Kenyon Drake still factoring this, probably playing more of that James White receiving back type role. So there's a lot of questions here, but I think going in the future, it's going to be Zamir White's backfield. I love Josh Jacobs as much as anybody here, but the writing seems to be on the wall right now. Unless he has a big season, I think we're going to see a bit of a transition moving forward. With that all being said, don't forget to move forward with fantasypoints.com. Use that promo code Vipers22 and get yourself 10% off that subscription today. And while we're at it here, while we're talking the talk, make sure if you're listening to us on Apple, Spotify, or Stitcher that you make sure to rate and review us. And as always, when you're listening to us or watching us on the YouTube network here, on the Vipers Network, take a second, like, subscribe, and make sure those notifications are turned on because we've got plenty more content coming your way very soon. Stay tuned.